Chapter 15. Hester and Pearl. Though Roger Chillingworth, a deformed old figure with a face that haunted men's memories longer than they liked, took leave of Hester Prynne and went stooping away along the earth. He gathered here and there in her or group bed up a root, and poured it into the basket on his arm. His grey beard almost touched the ground as he crept onward. Hester gazed after him a little while, looking with a half-fantastic curiosity to see whether the tender grass of early spring would not be blinded beneath him, and show the wavering track of his footsteps, steer and brown, across its cheerful verdure. She wondered what sort of hairs they were, which the old man was so sadly together. Would not the earth, quickened to an evil purpose by this sympathy of his eye, greet him with positions sharps of species high hitherto unknown, that would start up under his fingers, or might it suffice him that every wholesome growth should be converted into something delirious and malignant, and his touch? Did the sound, which shone so brightly everywhere else, really fall upon him? Or was there, as it rather seemed, a circle of infinite shadow moving along with his deformity, whichever way he turned himself? And whither was the now going? Would he not suddenly sink into the earth, leaving a burning blessed spot, where, in due course of time, would be seen daily night's shade, dog, wood, henbane, and whether else of vegetable weakness the comet could reduce, or flourishing with hideous luxuriance? Or would he spread back once and flew away, looking so much the uglier the higher he rose towards heaven? "Be it seen or no," said Hester Prynne bitterly, as she still gazed after him, "I hate the man." She upbraided herself for the sentiment, but could not overcome nor realize it. Attempting to do so, she thought of those long past days, in a distant land, when he used to emerge at empty from ex- the seclusion of his study, and sit down in the firelight of their home, and in the light of her nocturnal smile, he nodded to back himself in that smile, he said, in order that the shield of so many lonely hours among his books might be taken off the scholar's heart. Such scenes had once appeared not otherwise than happy, but now, as few thought, the dismal legend of her sequenced life, they classed themselves among her ugliest remembrances. She marvelled how much since could have been. She marvelled how she could ever have been brought upon to marry him. She deemed it her crime most to be repented of, that she had ever endured and reciprocated the lukewarm grasp of his hand, and had suffered the smile of her lips and eyes to mingle and melt into his own, and it seemed a fuller offence covered by Roger Shuttleworth than any which had since been done him, that in the time when her heart knew no better, he had pursued her to fancy herself happy by his side. Yes, I hate him, repeated Hester, more bitterly than before. He betrayed me. He has done me worse wrong than I did him. Let me tremble to win the hand of my woman, unless they win along with its utmost passion on her heart. Else it may be their miserable fortune, as it was Roger Shuttleworth when some mightier touch than their own may have acquainted all her sensories, to be reproached even for the cold content, the marble, marble image of happiness which they will have imposed upon her as the one reality. But Hester ought long ago to have done with his injustice. What did it betoken? had 7 long years under the torture of the Scarlet Letter, inflicted so much of misery, and wrought out no repentance. The emotions of that brief space, while she stood gazing after the crooked figure of already childhood, threw a dark light on Hester's state of mind, revealing much that she might not otherwise have acknowledged to herself. He being gone, she summoned back her child. Pearl, little Pearl, where are you? Pearl, whose activity of spirit never flagged, had been at no loss for assuming way her mother took it with the old gallery of hers. At first, as already thought, she had flirted fancifully with her own image in a pool of water, beckoning the phantom forth, and as it declined to venture, seeking a passage for herself into its sphere of impalpable earth and unattainable sky. Soon, finding, however, that either she or the image was real, she turned it elsewhere for better pastime. She made little bows out of branch bark, and friend them with the snail shells, and sent out more ventures on the mighty deep than any merchant in New England. But the large part of them foundered near the shore. She sent a live horseshoe by the tail, and made prize of several five fingers, and let out a jellyfish to melt in the warm sun. Then she took up the white foam that struck the line of the advancing tide, and threw it upon the breeze, scampering after it with withered footsteps to catch the great snowflakes ere they fell, perceiving a flock of two-beaked birds that fed and fluttered along the shore. The Nordic child picked up her apron full of pebbles, and creeping from rock to rock after this small sea-fowl, displayed remarkable dexterity in pelting them. One little gray bird with a white breast, Pearl was almost sure, had been hit by a pebble and fluttered away with a broken wing. But then the Eve child seconded, and gave up her sport, because it grieved her to give down her ham to a little being that was as wild as the sea breeze or as wild as Pearl herself. Her final employment was to gather seaweed of various kinds and make herself a scarf or mantle and head dress, and thus assume the aspect of a little mermaid. She inherited her mother's gifts for the best in drapery and costume. As the last touch of her mermaid's garb, Pearl took some eelgrass, and embroidered as best she could on her own bosom the decoration with which she was familiar on her mother's, a letter, the letter A, but freshly green instead of scarlet. The child bent her chin upon her breast, and contemplated this device with strange interest, even as if the one only thing for which she had been sent into the world was to make out its hidden import. I wonder if mother will ask me what it means, thought Per. Just then she heard her mother's voice, and fluttered along as lightly as one of the little sea birds appeared before Hester Prynne, dancing, laughing, and pointing her finger to the ornament upon her bosom. "My little Pearl," said Hester after a moment's silence, "the green letter and on the tight childish bosom has no purport. But dost thou know, my child, what this letter means which thy mother is doomed to wear?" "Yes, mother," said the child, "it is the great letter A. Thou hast taught it me in the horn book." Hester looked steadily into her little face, but though there was the singular expression which she had so often remarked in her black eyes, she could not settle herself whether Pearl really attached any meaning to the symbol. She felt a morbid desire to ascertain the point. Thus, to know, child, wherefore thy mother wears this letter? Truly do I, answered Pearl, looking broadly into her mother's face. It is for the same reason that the minister keeps his hand over his heart. And what reason is that? asked Hester, half smiling at the absurd inquiry of the child's observation, but on second thoughts turning pale. What has the letter to do with any heart said mine? Nay, mother, I have told all I know, said Pearl more seriously than she was wont to speak. Ask yonder old man one who has been talking with. It may be he can tell. But in good earnest now, mother dear, what does this scarlet letter mean? And why dost thou wear it on thy bosom? And why does the minister keep his hand over his heart? She took her mother's hands in both her own, and gazed into her eyes with an earnestness that was seldom seen in her wild and capricious character. The thought occurred to Hester that the child might really be seeking to approach her with childlike confidence, and do what she could and as intelligently as she knew how, to establish a meeting point to sympathy. It showed Pearl in an unwanted aspect. Heretofore, the mother, while loving her child with the intensity of a soul affection, had shielded herself to hope for little other return than the waywardness of an April breeze which spends its time in every sport, and has its ghost of unspeakable passion in its petulant in its best of moods, in shields over that caress you. When you take it to your bosom, in requital of which misdemeanors it will sometimes of its own vague purpose, kiss your cheek with a kind of doubtful tenderness, and play gently with your hair, and then be gone about its other evil business, leaving a dreamy pleasure at your heart. And this, moreover, was a mother's estimate of child's disposition. Any other observer might have seen few but unenumerable traits, and have given them a far darker coloring, but now the idea came strongly into Hester's mind, that Pearl with her remarkable precocity and accuracy might already have approached the age when she could be made a friend, and instructed with as much of her mother's sorrows as could be imparted, without interference either to the parent or the child. In the little chaos of Pearl's character there might be seen emerging, and could have been from the very first, the steadfast principle of an influencing courage, an uncontrollable will, a sturdy pride, which might be disciplined into self-respect, and a very score of many things which, when examined, might be found to have the taint of falsehood in them. She possessed affection too, thought hit her to a quite disagreeable as are the richest flavours of inbred fruit. With all these sterling attributes, thought Hester, the evil which she inherited from her mother must be great indeed, if a noble woman do not grow out of this artificial Pearl's inevitable tendency to hover above the enigma of the Scarlet Letter seemed an inherent quality of her being. From the earliest epoch of her conscious life, she had entered upon this as her appointed mission. Hester had often fancied that Providence had a design of justice and retribution in endowing the child with this remarkable propensity, but never until now had she bethought herself to ask, whether, linked with that design, there might not likewise be a purpose of mercy and beneficence. If little Pearl were entertained with faith and trust, as a spirit messenger no less than earthly child, might it not be her errand to sort away the sorrow that lay cold in her mother's heart, and carrying it into a tomb, and to help her to overcome the passion on once a while, and even yet neither dead nor asleep, but only imprisoned within the same tomb-like heart? Such were some of thoughts that now stricken in Hester's mind. With a with as much vivacity of impression as if they had actually been whispering to her ear. And there was little Bear, all this while holding her mother's hand in both her own, and turning her face outward while she put this searching question, once and again, and still a third time. What does the letter mean, mother? And why does you wear it? And why does the minister keep his hand over his heart? What shall I say? Thought Hester to herself. No, if this be the price of the child's salary, I cannot pay it. Then she spoke aloud. Silver, said she, what questions are these? There are many things in this world that a child must not ask about. What know I of the minister's heart? And as for the scarlet letter, I wear it for the sake of its gold thread. In all the significant years, Hester Prynne had never before been false to the symbol of her bosom. It may be that it was the talisman of a stern and severe, but yet a guardian spirit, who now forsook her, as recognizing that, in spite of his strict watch over her heart, some new evil had crept into it, or some old one had never been expelled. As for little Bear, the earnestness soon passed out of her face, but the child did not see fit to let the matter prove 2 or 3 times as his mother, and she went homeward, and as often at supper time, and while Hester was putting her to bed, and once after she seemed to be fairly asleep. Peter looked up with mischief gleaming in her black eyes. "Mother," said she, "what does the scarlet letter mean?" And the next morning the first indication the child gave of being awake was by popping up her head from the pillow and making that other inquiry which she had so unaccountably connected with her investigation about the scarlet letter. "Mother, mother, why does the minister keep his hands over his head?" "Hold thy tongue, naughty child," answered her mother, with an asperity that she had never permitted to herself before. "Do not tease me, else I shall shut thee into the dark closet."